Polls for the general elections have officially closed in Trinidad and Tobago. Roadblocks and protests have intensified in Bolivia following the postponement of the general elections and calling for the resignation of the de facto regime. Lebanon's Prime Minister announced the resignation of his government this Monday in the wake of the blast in Beirut. From the headquarters of Teleso English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, I'm Katrina Goss. We begin in Trinidad and Tobago, where polls recently closed for the general elections, while anyone still in line at a polling station will be allowed to cast their vote. More than 1.1 million people are eligible to go to the polls. Voter turnout in the Caribbean nation is usually low, and this year is unlikely to be different, especially due to a recent spike in COVID-19 cases. 146 candidates representing 19 political parties, as well as 4 independents, are standing. The elected candidates will occupy the 41 seats in Parliament. The leader of the winning party will become Prime Minister. The ruling People's National Movement and the opposition United National Congress have the greatest chance of winning seats. Following bilateral talks on Sunday, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Mohammad Ifan Ali, and President of Suriname, Chan Santoki, pledged their commitment to improve relations between their two countries. During a press briefing, President Santoki indicated that the talks had been extensive, covering multiple sectors, and were aimed at strengthening the existing relations between Guyana and Suriname. The talks also focused on opening up emerging sectors and infrastructural links that could create opportunities for human resources in both countries, according to statements.
Security policy area, where with the mandate of both people of the nation, we have to accomplish our mandate on a very comprehensive way, but also with the same confidence what the people gave us to accomplish their objectives through the democracy and to achieve a lot of activities, to have a better communication, to better cooperation, and also good understanding between those two nations. That is the commitment.
And President of Guyana, Dr. Mohammad Ifan Ali, highlighted the importance of bilateral cooperation.
The sector of both countries will collaborate and be a part of this transformational landscape that can bring tremendous benefit to our countries. We have also settled collaboration among ministries, particularly in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, but more importantly, in working out a strategic vision that is implementable, that is time-bound, and we have both stressed the need to have time-bound objectives.
Peruvian Interior Minister Jorge Montoya announced that at least 3 members of the indigenous Cucuma community were killed and 17 others injured in the Loreto region during a confrontation with Canadian oil company Petrotal. The clash between the indigenous community and security forces occurred on Sunday outside the facilities of Petrotal. Around 70 locals gathered to demand a halt in oil production. The local Organisation of Indigenous Communities, or PO, stated that they're demanding 5% of the oil production taxes to tackle poverty, as well as reparations for 50 years of environmental damage by the company. The organisation is also demanding greater support from the Peruvian government amid the coronavirus pandemic. Petrotal reported that after the incident, it had stopped operations at its oil production field located in the Loreto region in the northeast of the country.
To denounce the state repression through the national police of the Kunkamas borders of the Punawa Basin, exactly in Block 95, managed by Petrotal. The indigenous brothers, with the will to talk, went to speak with the leaders of the oil company with the aim of gaining access to the territorial control. Territorial control is a measure of force with the purpose of demanding that the state and the company close the breaches of poverty that exist in the area.
In Colombia, more than 10,000 new COVID-19 cases were reported in the last 24 hours, setting a new daily record. According to the Health Ministry, nearly 390,000 people have tested positive for COVID-19, while the country reports nearly 13,000 deaths. The Colombian capital, Bogotá, continues to be the most affected, followed by the departments of Antioquia, Córdoba and Valle del Cauca. Health authorities also confirmed the recovery of over 212,000 patients. We'll be right back after this short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Roadblocks and protests have intensified in Bolivia after the lack of answers on a definitive date for the general elections and demanding the resignation of de facto President Janine Áñez. Close to a week of protests, roadblocks and mobilizations organised by social movements and the Trade Union Federation in several regions of the country have continued and are especially strong in La Paz, Cochabamba and Santa Cruz. Meanwhile, the Bolivian Workers' Centre and rural movements assure that roadblocks will be maintained on 100 routes in the Andean region, despite the pressure and attacks of irregular groups against protesters. At least 60 demonstrators have been arrested and 40 remain in detention. And in the Bolivian city of El Alto, demonstrators blocked multiple roads while calling for the immediate resignation of all members of the de facto government and also condemning the postponement of the general elections, which had been set for September 6. Protesters also denounced the threats issued by the de facto authorities, as well as a plan to sell off the country's natural resources to foreign companies. Despite the militarization of several of Bolivia's main cities, the demonstrations have grown across the country in the past week.
The de facto Interior Minister Arturo Morillo has threatened people in the city of El Alto, all the people, all our patriotic brothers. We do not want our national resources, including our oil, gas and lithium, to be stolen. We have got news on negotiations with Petronas, negotiations taking place behind our backs.
The Director General of the World Health Organization has stressed that it is never too late to control a COVID-19 outbreak.
This week we will reach 20 million registered cases of COVID-19 and 750,000 deaths. Behind these statistics there is a great deal of pain and suffering. Every life lost matters. I know many of you are grieving and that this is a difficult moment for the world. But I want to be clear. There are green shoots of hope, and no matter where a country, a region, a city, or a town is, it's never too late to turn the outbreak around.
In the United States, COVID-19 infections continue to increase, with over 5.2 million cases now confirmed. The US is by far the worst affected country by the pandemic in the world. It has the highest COVID-19 death toll at more than 165,000. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump was accused of flouting the Constitution by unilaterally extending a virus relief package. The measures have been dismissed as unworkable, weak and far too narrow. And a major gas explosion ripped through 3 homes in the U.S. city of Baltimore this Monday, killing 1 woman and seriously injuring at least 6 others. The disaster occurred in a residential area in the Reisterstown Station neighborhood of northwest Baltimore. Windows shattered, doors shot off their hinges and bricks rained across the street as people scrambled to escape the wreckage of the blast just before 10 a.m. local time. The exact cause of the explosion was not immediately clear. Rescue crews pulled a woman from the rubble just before noon and freed another man around 12:15 p.m., according to the Baltimore Firefighters Union.
Now, we are also learning that some of those people that were trapped inside are now rescued, but they remain in critical condition.
Authorities in the U.S. city of Portland once again declared a riot on Sunday as Black Lives Matter protesters marched to a police union building and blocked a road. Since the police murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, protests have occurred nightly in the largest city of Oregon State for more than 70 days. Spanish health authorities confirmed over 1,400 new coronavirus cases this Monday, bringing the total number to more than 300,000 since the outbreak of the pandemic in the country.
A total of 1,486 new cases have been diagnosed in the last 24 hours. 3,316 new cases have been reported in the last 7 days, continuing from when they began to show symptoms, bringing the total number of cases in Spain to 322,980 since the beginning of the epidemic.
Sun seekers flocked to beaches over the weekend as parts of Western Europe saw a heat wave. A day after the United Kingdom recorded its hottest August day in 17 years at 36.4 degrees Celsius, much of its southern coastline was packed with visitors, many of whom had been forced to abandon foreign holidays because of COVID-19 travel restrictions. There was a similar story across other parts of Europe where many residents endured weeks of lockdown earlier this year. No relief is expected until Wednesday, with the soaring temperatures leading to further pressure as the coronavirus outbreak worsens. Researchers warned this week that climate change would likely bring more hot weather to Europe.
As sun seekers flocked to the coast, and Bournemouth deemed much of the beach unsafe on Saturday because social...
At the Grand Place in Brussels, wearing a mask is compulsory even in high temperatures, which have been over 35 degrees Celsius. The Belgian Royal Weather Institute has issued a red alert to warn people about the soaring temperatures, which are expected to continue for 3 days.
Wearing a mask under this the sun that's so hot right now, it's just so hard to breathe, and especially that if you are like inside a building that has no AC, it's really just so uncomfortable. But looking around, most of the people here are wearing their mask, of course, to protect themselves and the others, but I mean, it's still like, it's hard. I know it's uncomfortable, but we are trying to protect each other. So that's a good thing, I guess. So.
Greek emergency services and residents faced severe damage on Monday after flash floods sparked by a storm on the island of Evia left 8 people dead. Those in the village of Bortsi were removing mud and debris from their homes after a nearby river burst its banks. Parts of Evia saw rain that reached 80% of the annual rainfall for the area in the space of just a few hours overnight Saturday to Sunday. Authorities estimated that 3,000 homes had been partially or totally damaged by floodwaters, and police said many local roads were blocked. The death toll was updated to 8 after the body of a man missing after the storm was recovered on Monday near the Greek mainland, according to the Coast Guard. Now we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Prime Minister Hassan Diab addressed the nation this Monday, announcing his resignation and that of his government in the wake of the blast that hit Beirut last week. On confirming the decision, the Prime Minister criticised Lebanon's ruling political elite for fostering what he called an apparatus of corruption bigger than the state. Diab compared Tuesday's explosion to an earthquake that rocked the country, describing it as a disaster beyond measure. 3 cabinet ministers had already announced their resignations, along with 7 members of parliament, before those of the entire government were confirmed.
I declare today the resignation of this government. God save Lebanon. God save Lebanon. God save Lebanon. Long live the people and Lebanon.
The Central Electoral Commission of Belarus announced this Monday that current President Alexander Lukashenko secured over 80% of the vote following the general elections held on Sunday. Meanwhile, the main opposition candidate, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, won 9.9% of the vote, while the other 3 candidates failed to reach 2%. Opposition sectors took to the streets in the capital, Minsk, claiming that there was electoral fraud and refusing to recognise the results. Meanwhile, the observation mission sent by the Commonwealth of Independent States argued that there were no violations observed in the electoral process. And Belarusian authorities announced on Monday that non-authorized demonstrations were under control following the presidential elections that took place on Sunday. The announcement was made by police authorities, who reported that at least 2 people were under arrest, while noting that official numbers would be published in the coming hours. Meanwhile, the Interior Ministry noted that the national police had been deployed across the country to guarantee public safety. President Lukashenko has stressed that intelligence reports revealed that the protests are being orchestrated from Poland, the United Kingdom and the Czech Republic. Israeli security forces bombed an observation post of the Hamas resistance movement in the Gaza Strip on Monday. The occupying Israeli regime claimed the attack was in retaliation after Hamas launched explosive-laden balloons. Hamas representatives stressed that the latest attack by Israeli forces caused damage to several facilities, although no casualties have been reported so far. Residents of the Gaza Strip continue to denounce the Israeli attacks under all sorts of pretexts. Meanwhile, Palestinian resistance movements have vowed to improve their capacity to fight the Israeli occupation. Pakistan reopened its restaurants, cinemas and gyms as the number of coronavirus cases continues to drop. Pakistan is the fourth most affected nation by the novel coronavirus pandemic in the Asian continent. To date, the country has reported nearly 285,000 COVID-19 cases and over 6,000 deaths. On a more positive note, daily cases have gone down and health authorities report that more than 260,000 patients have recovered from the virus.
Most of the restaurants have opened and we have a good response to the grace of God, better than earlier. All the employees and businessmen are happy with the opening and that the government has ended the lockdown because coronavirus is controlled now. I came out because the weather is pleasant today and coronavirus is controlled, almost finished. It has no significant effects now, but we should take care because prevention is better than cure. One never knows about the bad time, so we have to take care of ourselves and should wear masks.
Iran's president has stressed the continuation of daily activities in the country, accompanied by health protocols amid the coronavirus pandemic. President Hassan Rouhani emphasized the adoption of a balanced approach to confront the coronavirus, noting that economic activities cannot be stopped, but at the same time it is not possible to act exactly as before the outbreak of the pandemic. Rouhani emphasized that the current situation is likely to last for at least another 6 months. The Iranian president advised people to plan their lives according to the situation the coronavirus has created, stressing that all aspects of daily life must be combined with the observance of protective measures. Students in their final year of primary, secondary and higher education resumed classes in the Democratic Republic of the Congo this Monday as the state of emergency was lifted following a fall in the number of daily coronavirus infections.
We have infrastructure that allows us to have 400 places, but we can't put 400 students in a class, so we split up the classes so that we can observe social distancing measures. What we're going to ask you to do is to be careful about coronavirus disease. It's true that we have lifted the state of emergency, but the disease, the virus, is not gone. You concentrate on your studies, we'll take care of the rest. I wish you a happy end of the year.
Authorities in Malawi closed bars and churches and re-established restrictions to limit the alarming spread of the coronavirus on Sunday. The move came after a court blocked the government's attempts to impose a full lockdown 3 months ago, after the first positive case in the country was detected at the beginning of April. Meanwhile, the number of confirmed cases has nearly doubled over the past 4 weeks to reach over 4,600, while the death toll has surpassed 140. The court ruling, which blocked the government from enforcing a full lockdown, cited that authorities had failed to implement any measures to help the most vulnerable sectors of society during the restrictions.
We were not consulted. We did not even receive prior notice about the development of these new rules and regulations. For that reason, we express our displeasure. But law is law, and it must be adhered to. We are very much...
French prosecutors formally opened an investigation on Monday into the killing of 6 French aid workers and 2 locals by gunmen in a giraffe park in Niger, previously considered to be one of the safest places in the West African country. The group was attacked just before noon on Sunday. An ambulance sent by the French military stationed in Niger found the bodies in the giraffe reserve in Kuri, 60 kilometers east of the capital. The victims were 6 French citizens and 1 Nigerian who worked for NGO Acted and Geneva-based think tank Impact Initiatives. The other victim was their local guide. One of the biggest French NGOs, Acted, has been present in Niger since 2010 and provides aid to displaced people and local populations who are particularly vulnerable due to conflicts in the region. French prosecutors said in a statement they had opened an investigation into the murders linked to terrorists.
In the coming days, ACTED will file a complaint in front of the Dean of the Instruction Judge in Paris in order for the French justice to be able to inquire to know exactly what has happened. And the motives, the grounds for the complaints should be conspiracy in order to commit terrorist act and murder or assassination linked with the terrorist act.
And we've come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Telesu English, I'm Katrina Goss, and thank you for watching.